In this tutorial, I want to discuss the new additions we've made to the project input page. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the project files by just checking this, selecting the project inputs. So essentially, this is the same way. I'm gonna go ahead and add some files to the project. I'm gonna add the SEMA files. Again, if I hold down the shift button, it lets me select multiple files. If I hold down the control button, I can select or deselect other files. Nothing new there, so I go ahead and open those. I don't have to open them all at once. I can go ahead and just keep adding them one at a time if I wanted. Whatever. So opens all of those files. Nothing new there. In fact, the equipment page, pulley, and load cases, nothing's changed in those pages. However, in the summary pages, we've essentially just added some new information. Clearly, we've added information about the conveyor names, the projects, all of that, all of those inputs on that general page. We've added the conveyor profile, which is quite nice. You can see a picture of what the conveyor profile is at. Cross-sectional loading is still there. A few things have been moved around. We've added some new inputs and outputs have been added. By all means, if there's anything that's not on this summary page that we want to add now, that you as the end user want to see added, just let me know. It's super easy for us to just add whatever additional outputs we want. It's no problem at all. One kind of new change or addition is we've added all the pictures for each file. So we've added the 8 pictures or 4 sets. So for example, I'll just go into one of these. If I open up like this one, SEMA 5. In the output window, probably 90% of people just use the head and tail arrangement. So you go into your tail and you move your labels around and you zoom in and you go to your head and zoom in and out and whatnot. Probably 90% of people just use those two. However, you can now use this middle arrangement, which was generally in a tripper drive, but certainly this other pulley. I think you guys might find that this might be the window that you default for all of your project summary files, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. So even though you may not check it, if you check it here, it goes to the report, but you might not have it for the report. You may set this image and use this image in your summary, in your project summaries. So going back to this again, here are all of those windows. The rest of this is pretty similar. Like I say, we've added a few new items and whatnot, but otherwise this is the same. So this is really where the changes have made on the custom page. So what this custom page essentially is it's all of our inputs as well as a set of 8 new tabs here. And by default, these are just some tabs that I've created. But every one of these tabs is fully customizable. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Let's go ahead and go to this extra tab, which is just one that I didn't have anything in. So I'm going to go ahead and if I see extra, I can go over to extra. There's nothing there. I'm going to right click. If I right click on any of these, it gives a bunch of options. I can save it, load it. So if I make some cool ones and you want to give that to your buddy, you just save it and he can load it. Save all just saves all 8 of them. Load the default just reloads all your defaults. But I'm going to just start with renaming it. I'm going to say Dave's form example. Fine. And that comes up, changes the name, whoopee. The purpose of this now is I now have a form here that I can put anything I want. Maybe I just want to put the conveyor name, the conveyor length, and the conveyor height. So all I went is one over here and just checked each one of these. And maybe I want to put the material type. If I check that, as soon as I exit the cell, it adds a line number. And this line number just represents that's where it's going to go. So line 1 is going to have the conveyor name, 2 is going to have length, height, and material type. I go over here, conveyor name, length, height, material type. There we go. So the purpose is I can customize this however I want. Now certainly I know a lot of users right now simply go over to the summary page, they copy this, they go into Excel, and they paste the whole thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. You've got everything in here, and now you've got another Excel spreadsheet that grabs from this summary page. It grabs whatever information you wanted, and that's completely fine. One downside of that is that when I was changing the summary page, I mean, as I said a minute ago, if you want to add new items, let me know. The downside was I'd have a lot of users go, well, it's great that you added this new stuff in the belting, but now I got to change all my Excel spreadsheets. The beauty of this is now that this is length, height, and material type within Sidewinder, it doesn't matter. If I add a bunch of new inputs here, whatever, this custom page is automatically going to update, behind the scenes. You don't have to do anything. So the point is I can add new inputs here, and this is always still going to have length, height, and material type. So now if I take here and I copy this to Excel, and now maybe I have my new form, and now I can just paste just that information that I want. So this Excel spreadsheet might have another tab that's the information that you send out for vendors for belting orders or idler orders or whatever it may be, and it just has that information. So rather than having to paste all of this information, you can just make a page up with just the stuff that you want. That's the idea behind this. And just you as the end user being able to visualize. I mean, if you're a project manager and you want to look at a bunch of conveyor designs, looking at the summary pages is all right, but there's just, there's a lot of information here. I mean, there's just everything here, and you might go, geez, all I really want to know is a quick overview. I just want, just a summary. Well, that's what my overview page is here, is just a summary. Or just the information about the belts, or just the idlers. So that's what these pages are meant to do, and that's the idea behind this. So again, coming back to my Dave file here, we've added conveyor name, length, height, and material type. Again, conveyor name, length, height, material type. Okay, great. But I really wanted to see this. I wanted material type before length. So as I was making this up, I went, well, originally I just had users be able to check things, and then I said, well, why don't we add line numbers? And if you just want them in that order, that's fine. Just go ahead and select the things you want. But if you want to make your own custom order, just click manual number instead of auto number, and now I can make it whatever I want. So now maybe I want tonnage is line 3, material type is line 4, length is line 5, and height is line 6. Well, there we go. Tonnage is line 3. Oh, what did I do wrong here? Obviously I did something wrong here. 2, 4. and that's a good point. I can put spaces. So line 1 has my conveyor name. Maybe I'm going to have line 3 and 4 have my tonnage, and then instead of 5 I'm going to go with 6 and 7. That's completely fine. I just have some spaces in between them, which is kind of nice. I can separate things. Some other options, so I can go ahead, you can quickly see here, I can add anything however I want in any order I want. So I could say I'm going to add, now I'm going to add belt type under line 8, and then I'm going to put speed on line 9, and I'm going to put width on line 10. There we go. So the purpose is I can just put anything I want in here. So now let's say I was making this all up, and I'm looking at this, and I said, that's nice, but I want to, after material type, I want to add lump size. Well, I mean, obviously I could go over to lump size here. Where's my maximum lump size? I could go over here, and after, what did I say, after material type, so I could make this 5. But if I make that 5, it's going to go right here. So what I really want to do is shift all of this down. So I want to give me some length, some room under length. So what I can do is I can go over to the line 6, my length, and if I increase or decrease these buttons, if I just select that, it just increments everything. You see that change to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If I keep incrementing, it just is incrementing everything from there on up. So you can see I've just added some space in here, so I can come back over here and put lump size as line 5. There we go. Oh, now I added too many lines. I want to decrement them. Well, same thing. If I just click on this, whatever line I want to be, line 10, and decrement them there. Now I've just shifted them back. Oh, one more. I got to shift it. So there we go. And certainly, if you want to use my defaults here, like you might look at my overview page and say, I really like this, but I want to add something after maximum lump size. Well, I can just go after whatever maximum lump size happens to be on my overview page. Maximum lump size is number 14. So I can simply increment some numbers there. I'll just add a whole bunch. Oops, sorry, that should have stayed as 14 though. But you see I just shifted some stuff down, so now I could add lines 15, 16, 17, whatever. Certainly not perfect, but the idea is you're going to sit down and do this once for the information that you want and save that and probably never change it again. But the beauty is it's completely flexible to do whatever you want. One thing you may find yourself, and this is coming back to, let's go back to our example here of our Dave examples. Actually, I'm just going to clear this. Well, we'll just leave it. So right now, an example, we've got this information. Something you may, as I said, you might, after maximum lump size here, which happens to be, let's see, maximum lump size is line 5. Maybe I want to put that other picture on line 6. So there is that picture from the other, again, going back, whoops, going back, let's just go to this conveyor file here. Show what I meant by that. P5, P3, going back to this other picture, whatever picture I have here. So I don't want it to show maybe all these. Maybe I just want that picture to always show wherever my drive's at. Maybe it's at the tail. Maybe it's halfway through the conveyor. I've got a tripper and the drive's halfway back. So my head shows this and it's got the driveway back here. Well, I just want to show this image down here of my drive layout. I could make that the other picture, and it's just kind of, that's my standard, or whatever your standard may be, that'll just simply show that other picture on this page. Right there it is. So that was the purpose of that. Likewise, for example, idlers. If you look at my custom idler page here, I've kind of got some cool customized things here. So pulley types, where's idlers? Right here. You can see I go through each of the idler sets. Oh, and of course I've only got 2 sets on these in these examples. Let's go ahead and add another file somewhere. I don't know. This has got some other idlers. I'm just looking for something with some additional idlers on it. Let's just add a whole bunch of stuff. I got some more idlers. Ah, there we go. That one had 2 more idler sets. So the purpose of what I was trying to do here is that you can see here idler set number 1. I've got line number 13 is carry, and now number 14 is number rolls, yada yada yada, for idler set 1. Then I've got idler row 23 is my return idlers. Those are always going to be idler set number 2. Impact idlers, I'm going to set as always idler set 3. Transition idlers, always is number 4. Maybe you want to say head transition and tail transition idlers, and so on all your files you make them types 5 and 6 or whatever. But you can statically now put those in, put that information in here, and as long as you keep that same format, when you go to your idler data page, you're going to say carry idlers. You automatically know those have already been put in my file as type 1. Return always is type 2. Impact type 3. Transition type 4. And it looks like I need to add a space in there on the transition between the impact and the transition idlers. Same goes for motors and pulleys, specifically pulleys. On the pulley data page, if we go to the pulley data page here, I've simply said that all of my pulley type number 1s, go down here to pulleys, all my type 1 pulleys are going to be my drive pulleys. So even if it's, maybe you've got a high tension bend and some other pulleys, and your drive pulley is the 5th pulley along the conveyor line, I always make that my pulley type number 1, and therefore in this page now that will always come up as my drive pulley. High tension pulleys make type 2. Medium type tension pulleys make 3. Low tensions make 4. Snubs make 5. And use that as a default. And now when you come in here, those files will always have those in them. Even though you may not have any medium tension pulleys. So your actual Sidewinder file might have type 1, type 2, and type 4 and not have a type 3 in it. That's okay because this is the standards used for your projects, and it doesn't make any difference at all if you just use type 1, type 2, and type 4 and you don't use a type 3 in your files. So you can see when you're working with multiple files the purpose of being able to standardize how you input your conveyors and how you work with your conveyors. So I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Again, any of these pages I can right click, copy, and paste directly into Excel. Unfortunately, Excel doesn't let you insert the pictures. We are kind of working on that, but it seems like it's a limitation of Excel that it's not trivial to do, which would have been awesome if we could have directly pasted those in, but as of right now you can't. If you do want to print, and that is the purpose of having this nice form here again, is if I go to print and I look at that preview window and actually show it on the screen that I'm recording, you can see it's actually got a fairly nice, I've tried to make these as fairly nice layouts. Oh, one other thing that I need to mention as well is, what is this information over here? Well, this is all clearly just, these are all outputs. This is essentially just after it writes all these out, it then writes this information out. So back to our Dave example, we had material type on line 4, but maybe I wanted line 4 instead of to say material type, I wanted to say my material. Whatever. If I look, that now says my material. Let's say I wanted to bold that. Well, over here I hit a hash sign before it. Now my material is bolded. Let's say on the printout, add a plus and a minus sign on the printout will add a line. So if I put a plus sign here, oops, and I go over here, it turns it yellow on this page, but if I actually look at the printout and I preview that and bring that over, my material now has a line underneath it. If I'd used a minus sign, the line would have been above it. So that essentially just lets you customize this report to however you want. Maybe you've got everything and then you want to just add a blank line that says on line 14, I want to say total value or something like that, and that's what you're sending over to your client. There you go, total value. And again, if I print it and preview it, I've got another line called total value. I probably wanted to actually put that above, so I probably wanted to use a minus sign there. And there you go. So again, do whatever you want. Hopefully you guys find this really flexible. A few other just tricks that I added. If you look on the overview page here, this parentheses, and again, parentheses adds information like description, project location. Obviously it's nice on your pages that you've got the project name on it. So if you use a bracket like project, or if I use a bracket and I say location, what that does is that simply puts just the location from the first file. Now obviously this didn't have a location, but if I go into that file and I say the location is Mankato, Minnesota, and I save that, I come back over here and I reload these. There we go. Now all my forms are going to have this Mankato, Minnesota. All my projects would have that. I mean, obviously the project name is probably the most useful that you'd put. So it's just something that you can put on a page. It's not going to put it on every single column. It just puts it once there for the project or whatever it may be. Again, so when you print it, it looks nice and it's all on all your printouts. So All right, I think that wraps it up, and I'm sure I'm going to and hopefully get a lot of feedback from you guys. Go ahead and play around with it, use it. Let me know the things you really like, things we want to add. Um, One thing that I've been thinking about is actually having a move page so that if I've got an item here and I want to move it, I can just perhaps come over to that item and right click or have a little button that says move to line 25 or something and automatically moves it around. Right now you'd have to insert it and shift things down and that sort of stuff. But again, the idea is that you can play around with it, make what you want up for your custom files, and there you go. Oh, and again, save as default. This file is saved under your My Documents. If you go to your My Documents Sidewinder directory, it happens to be, if I go to my Documents Sidewinder directory, it's called default CTF file. So this file, if I go up here and I right click and say save as default, it would have simply updated that file. I may want to copy this and make a backup or something like that in case I screw it up, or you reinstall Sidewinder, you put it on another computer. There you go. Individual files, if I right click and say save form, again, I can just save that as a name. I can call it belting or whatever, and you can save that whatever directory you want to save that in. So you can save each one individually, or you can load them and save them all as the default file. If you get in here and you've screwed everything all up and you went, just right click and say load defaults, and now it just reloaded everything back in. Just be careful that you don't overwrite this file. You may want to make a copy of that. This is actually also stored in the C program files Sidewinder installation directory. The original default is stored there. So if you completely screw it up, just copy it from that directory and put it in there. Very good.